would like the ship to go. Now.
Hello and welcome to Discussing Trek. I'm your host Clarence, and I'm joined by none other than my co-host slash Trekkie slash Whovian himself, Cal Jones. How you doing, man?
You know what? I am glad to be back. We didn't record last week and missed talking to you, so glad to be back. How about you? How are you?
I'm doing well, you know, as many other folks out there gearing up for the holiday season. I think we're in the midst of it now, so if I ain't ready, it might be a little bit too late. It might as well be, of course. You know, enjoyed the Thanksgiving season, and I'm ready to, you know, for Christmas to get here and be over, actually. But yeah, I'm doing well, man. Doing well. How about yourself?
You know, it's interesting that you said be over, because with Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's being right 1, 2, 3 punch, it's almost like, and I see how people get, you know, I don't want to say depressed, but get overloaded, you know, at the holidays because there's so much going on.
It is. Yeah.
But no, I'm doing good. I guess if you're looking at the naughty or nice list, I wasn't naughty this weekend, but I was wicked this weekend.
Oh, so did you, I guess you finally went to see a musical.
Yes. You know, I've said before, I'm not a big fan, believe it or not, of musicals. You know, I can count on one hand. I remember liking Annie whenever I was a kid. I remember liking that. I did like The Wizard of Oz, you know, as a kid.
Which is funny. I don't really consider that a musical, but I get, of course it is, I guess. But The Wizard of Oz, that's a classic.
So, but for the most part, you know, like West Side Story, and I had heard of Wicked. I remember when the book came out. I never read the book. I've never seen anything about the music. And somebody that I worked with said, oh my goodness, I went and saw this and I cried all the way home after watching it. And so I went and listened to the finale song without watching the movie. First time listening, never heard it before.
Spoilers,
heard the song and like cried.
Wow.
Knew nothing about it except, you know, just kind of on the surface what I thought it was about. I went to the movie and watched the movie. Everybody that I saw leaving out of the theater were in
Really?
tears. Yes.
Oh, man.
I mean, and I was like in that, what you call the ugly cry, you know.
It really hit you.
You know, yes. And what got me watching it was I've already listened to the song several times, and then I watched it, and it was like even more powerful.
Oh, wow.
So yes, I highly recommend that movie. So Wicked.
So we're going to get into Trek, of course, but I have to ask you, going in, did you know it was going to be 2 movies?
Yes.
Okay.
I knew it was a part 1 and part 2, you know, and I knew this was basically the intermission. You know, this was act 1 of the staged version, and then the other will be act 2. So I knew that. And I kind of knew the overall story of what they were doing, you know, just the premise of it and the intent of it. But seriously, the casting could not have been any better. No offense to the originals that were on Broadway, but I went back and listened to the Broadway version of it and felt nothing.
Oh, wow.
You know, so it's the casting, then the singing from the 2 main actors, Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo.
As Nicole Kidman says, it's the power of movies.
Yes. That was powerful. I mean, I just have to say that was highly recommend anybody listening or watching. Go see Wicked. You won't regret it.
Well, you know, I watched something too that made me cry, but I wouldn't say it was tears of joy. I would say it may have been tears of, it might want to claw my eyes out.
And that was
episode 8 of Lower Decks. Let's get into it. We're going to talk about Lower Decks, episode 8 and episode 9. It was the best of times. It was the worst of times. I feel like episode 8 was a masterpiece. Episode 9, was a masterpiece. Episode 8, the Dawn of Boredom is back.
If you have not seen these 2 episodes, put us on pause. Go out, watch the episode, come back, because from this moment forward, spoilers.
Spoilers.
Red alert.
All hands stand to battle station.
Gives you the right.
You cannot destroy an idea.
At ease before you spray it.
No, that could spoil the milk.
And let's get into it. Star Trek Lower Decks, Episode 8, Upper Decks. It's giving me the tongue twister. I keep thinking about those baseball cards from the 90s and 80s, Upper Decks. The Lower Deckers have a pumpkin carving party, which is kind of the tagline that I saw everywhere, but really the episode has nothing to do with that. It's a bunch of malarkey, as a president once would say. Let's talk about it, man. Do you have any beats before I go any further about Upper Decks?
I absolutely do. But since we were doing this as one complete review, I merged them together. So you ready for it?
Let's hear it, man.
No matter how many of you there are, and regardless of whence you came, we all got problems. And I mean that as a compliment.
Mo universes, mo problems? I don't know. Let's get into it. This episode, Upper Decks, was directed by Bob Perez, written by Cullen Crawford. What are your overall thoughts of the episode, man? I will go first if you want me to, because, I've kind of, let the cat out of the bag on it.
Yeah.
I absolutely hated.
Don't torture the cat any longer. So I'm getting the feeling, like you just said, and keep going, and then I'll give my thoughts. But obviously, like you just said, you hated it.
So it's interesting. It was an opportunity for them to, let me just say, to me, it felt like a wasted episode. We only have so many episodes left before the series is over. To me, this is one of the worst episodes of Lower Decks I've seen. Now, it's not really focusing on our former Lower Deckers. It's focusing on the senior staff, the bridge crew. And man, I found almost zero redeeming qualities in this episode. Now, there's a few things I thought are pretty interesting, and we'll get into it. But overall, it was just a nothing burger to me, man. What are your overall thoughts on it?
Okay, so that's interesting. I am kind of going to disagree with you. I actually enjoyed this one.
What?
And I think there were plenty of other Lower Deck stories that back when I was on my haterade for Lower Decks, that would fall in the category of worse than this.
Really?
Yes. Now, if I'm looking at it from the trajectory of we've only got so many episodes left, then I definitely agree with you that it was a wasted opportunity to flesh out more of the story they're building to. It did feel like a filler from that. But I think what I liked about this the most was you get to see, just because they're upper deckers, so to speak, their lives aren't mysteriously grand, and they're not, all the time doing all this awesome stuff. They're doing boring things just like the lower deckers are. They just have a different designation. That's what I thought was the mundaneness of it is what I think what I liked about it, because I think it just kind of let you see behind the curtain and see everybody's really just the same. They just have different titles.
Was it? It didn't feel okay. There were aspects of it that definitely felt mundane. And just to set up a little bit, we start the episode with our lower deckers, and then they're off doing their own thing. We don't see them until the very end of the episode. They bookend the episode, but the episode basically is I like to use the word, but vignettes of the lives of the senior staff. I get what you're saying about the mundaneness of it. And I would say probably where I got that vibe the most was from Captain Freeman.
Yeah,
she's in the theater, listening to music, watching recital of lines and stuff. And she's going to burst. So she's doing more of to me, it felt more first officer stuff that she was doing, because that's something that usually I think a first officer would do more. But she was doing very, I hate to use the word
public
politics, PR type events throughout the whole episode. So definitely on that aspect, it was mundane to the fullest. But the other ones are ones that really kind of threw me aback. There was one I did really like, although I'm crapping on it a lot. But there was one that I really, really liked, and that was Shax's storyline. I thought his was good. It gave his character some additional depth, which I really liked. But the rest of them, let's start with Ransom's storyline with the Lower Deckers. They have these, I want to say Jadoon. What were the name of those things?
It was the cloaking, the Bahagoons.
Yeah, those things.
Buhgoons.
Yeah, he was trying to manage a crew that were there to, I guess, examine those things. But I just felt like everything in that storyline was just a waste of time, man. Now, the stories of, and I see what they tried to do at the end by him being the, for lack of better words, antagonist. He brought the rest of them together with his mundane story about lifting weights and then actually lifting weights. And to me, it just was a big waste of my time. And, you know, especially with where we go in the next episode, how great the episode is. To me, it's just not great writing if we waste time on something like this.
So what I took away from that was it actually made me think and wonder, do people make themselves look incompetent in real life to create that common enemy for the team? You know, is that a motivational technique that some people use? You know, is that done in the military? Is it done in business? What? Or was that just a plot device that they used?
You know, I think it would have been a bit more impactful if that wasn't how the character was every single moment of the day. But that's kind of who his character is. So for him to kind of use it as a motivational factor, to me, it really didn't hit because that's just who he always is, kind of worried about his muscles, kind of jerk, so to speak. So to me, again, I just felt like we wasted time on that whole entire storyline. I did actually like the aliens, we got the Clickets infiltrators coming in because they want the cloaking device for these aliens. I found that very compelling, but to me, it was wasted in this sea of weirdness.
So, all right, let me go ahead and say I really enjoyed this one because I'm a cat person, and you know the whole idea of the bedside manner. What did you think of that?
Oh man, you know I think there's a good message there with Tiana because you hear a lot of different groups, mainly women, saying that male doctors don't really hear them. Because they come in with the different things. They're not a woman. They don't know it firsthand. They don't know the severity of the pain. And this was kind of her whole storyline, that she was not willing to provide enough pain medicine for anybody that's coming into the sick bay. So I thought that was interesting. It far more interesting than the Ransom storyline. And I thought Nurse Westlake was a gem that should have been in this series from the very beginning. I think we have seen him before, but his character was so fun in this episode. I'm like, man, missed opportunity. We should have had this guy from the very beginning because I felt he was like a slight a breath of fresh air for the season for me. And of course, we have kind of the book end of that where she actually experiences some pain at the end, and she's like, I'll provide the increased medicine. So, yeah, I found that one a bit more interesting. And let me back up for a little bit because I didn't really notice this. I guess I didn't put two and two together, but our friend Wingrace pointed this out to me about how this is kind of the inverse of Lower Decks, the TNG episode, where the idea of Lower Decks kind of spawns from, but. To me, in that episode, it was so much more fleshed out. You had similar things of senior staff interacting with the Lower Deckers, but to me, the whole storyline of that episode kind of culminated in something that was very heartfelt. And also, we get to see promotions in that episode. But this kind of playing on that a little bit, but it's just these vignettes just weren't anything valuable to me at all.
So I did like I said, I liked the cat story, and I kind of overall liked it. What did you think about the killing them with kindness aspect at the end? The way that you defeated the Clickets was you celebrated them. Yeah. You gave them, compliments to get rid of them.
I find it to be, again, it's very on par with Lower Decks, but at the same time, I found it to be just a little bit like, really, really, we couldn't come up with anything better. Somewhat interesting, but killing with kindness is the way to defeat the Clickets. Yeah, again, another aspect I didn't love of the episode. What did you think about the Billups and the whole engineering thing that we had?
That one I really didn't even. That was the least of my thoughts.
Yeah.
I remembered the other one, but as I'm looking back at his was the inconsequential part of it for me.
Yeah, they had a little Rathacon call out in there a little bit. That was pretty good. But yeah, I hated his as well, man. It's like none of these, and I know there are people that love these. I love this episode because I've talked to a few people that loved it. But to me, it was just like, it was like chaos to the max, and I just couldn't find many redeeming qualities out of it. Now, go ahead.
Let me ask this. Do you think had this one been situated at the first of a season or in another season, would you have liked it more? I guess what I'm basically saying is, knowing that there's only 2 or 3 episodes left, is that consciously or subconsciously impacting your quote unquote dislike?
It could be. And honestly, I think in any season where you only have 10 episodes, you really don't have a lot of room, in my opinion, to have an episode that isn't stellar. But to me, this just isn't my cup of tea at all. And that might be, that might be on me. So, I'll take that because it might just be on me because you said you enjoyed it pretty much.
Well, I enjoyed it, but again, I'm not saying that it was the best of the best. I'm just saying I didn't hate it,
So my favorite parts of the episode was Shaq's as well. I thought that the exploration of his Bajoran past was pretty interesting in how it was haunting him. Shax is an interesting character. He's always been kind of high strung, and this was no different. So I thought that was on par for his character. And I thought it was a pretty good exploration of his past. Got to see the battle and also his not alter ego, but his subconscious that's been kind of hounding him. Now, again, this goes to our friend Windgrace because I didn't remember this, but this is a Darkwing Duck reference to Negaduck from Darkwing Duck. Have you ever seen that show?
I've seen Darkwing Duck, but I don't know of Megaduck.
Negaduck. So he's like a negative. So and he looks just like Shax did in that scene where he's like all gray and has the red eyes. It looks just like that. I remembered it once he brought it up, but before then, I really didn't put 2 and 2 together on that. So I found that pretty interesting as well. And
awesome.
Yeah. So again, didn't love this episode. I don't know how you would rate it, but I'll go ahead and just give my rating for this one. It's going to be a 2.8, man. 2.8. Horrible Shaq passed out of 5. I hated this episode, man. It was really bad.
All right. I'm going to give it a 3 very angry cat doctors out of 5.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Again, that story was okay to me as well. This kind of par for the course for Tiana.
Oh, and if I had to name my best moment from that episode was when the doctor had gotten so hyped up or agitated by all the experiments that were being done and then attacks the Clicket.
Yeah.
That was funny to me.
Oh, and I guess we also got the we'll always have Paris scene with Admiral Freeman and
yes. So what did you think about that with the showing up, as the surprise? And I let me go ahead and say I like that because I think that added humanity to the characters.
It did. And I actually really loved that. It almost, although this was a chaotic episode that I wouldn't compare to anything else in Star Trek, honestly. But the bookend with Admiral Freeman coming, I thought was a real nice touch and something I didn't expect, and neither did Mariner expected. So I thought that was really interesting, really cool. So that was 3 from you, 2.8 for me. Are you ready to move on to Fissure Quest?
Indeed.
So if I would have to say Upper Decks was the episode that I really hated and thought was the worst of the worst. Fissure Quest is Chef's Kiss, probably maybe my favorite episode of Lower Decks. And I can't believe these two episodes are back to back. Give me something that was okay, but I didn't love, and give me excellence. Hey, I'm here for it. Fissure Quest, fissures must be closed before they get inflamed. Isn't on all the nostalgia. Cal, what did you think of this episode, man?
So I'm watching it and thinking to myself, they're pulling out all the stops at the very end. You know, they're going out in style. And I was like, I can't wait to hear what Clarence thinks, because as a Voyager fan, he's going to be loving this. And I know from hearing you talk on this podcast, you were a fan of T'Pol. So
yes,
even in animated form, you know, still you got a version of T'Pol. I thought that was a very interesting way to bring back all these variants of, using some Marvel term here, but all these variants of different characters, and letting them be out of their own timeline, out of their own story, but still using them. I thought that was very clever, and kudos.
Yeah, 2 episodes in a row where it's Lower Decker light, I would say. Our main Lower Deckers aren't, hardly in either episode. But we go to William Boimler, which we thought he was dead. He's not dead. He's working for some unnamed Starfleet group, which it looked like a Section 31 badge. I wasn't 100% sure, but it looked like it could have been a Section 31 badge that he was wearing. They didn't come out and say it, but I thought they may have been throwing the hint that's what they were talking about. But yeah, I absolutely love this episode. It hit on things that fans have been wanting forever. It's bringing back characters in an interesting way. In a, what's the whole Marvel series where they go and fight on the planet? What is that called?
Secret Wars.
The whole Secret War type thing where, have these variants that are coming and working together. Absolutely love this episode. So let's talk about the idea of these fissures, and we're having this crew of, it's kind of what I thought they might do for the Section 31 movie. It was kind of my prediction that they'd be plucking people out of time. Mm-hmm. But this is actually what they kind of do, plucking people out of these different realities and making a hodgepodge crew, which, man, just excellent choices. Bravo, excellent choices for the crew. What did you think about bringing all these characters, or alternate versions of these characters?
So this is a premise that Marvel has done before in a book entitled The Exiles. It was different versions of different X-Men related characters from across the Marvel multiverse that was coming together to do whatever mission that needed to be done. Very similar in concept here, bringing these varied characters together. Again, I just think that was a very smart way to utilize characters without worrying about character backup and storyline, et cetera, and so forth.
Yeah. And, I could fuss about some things if I was really getting nitpicky. But, I think it's been explained to me pretty well by Wingrace mainly, talking about how just because this character was possibly in a different timeline in my universe, something could have been different about the alternate universe where they could have been pushed up in time or back in time a little bit. So, when T'Pol first shows up, I'm like, is that even possible that she could still be around? But it worked for me, man. It worked. Having Jolene Blalock come back, man, is just like almost a dream from Enterprise days to have her come back. I just thought that was really amazing.
And what's really cool about animation, and is something that Doctor Who, has to deal with quite often, is you don't have to explain the look of the actor aging from the time they played the character till now. In animation, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Amazing. And we get to see this awesome relationship between T'Pol and Curzon, which, we saw the Odo version of Curzon a little bit prominently in DS9. And we saw flashbacks, but, we get to see the Curzon Dax in this episode. And he was voiced by Fred Tatasciore, I believe, in this episode. And he was fantastic. He was fantastic. Almost everything I thought that character would be, he really showcased in this episode. And, by the end of it, having a heartfelt relationship between Curzon and T'Pol, I thought was really touching as well.
Mm. So what did you think of the Dr. Bashir return?
Playing the EMH, which I thought was a great twist. No more Robert Picardo. We're having Alexander Siddig playing the EMH, reprising his character for sure. I thought was real cool. And to pair him up with Garrick, which, people have shipped. This was like pure fan service right here, because people have kind of shipped these two characters since the show has been around. So very much playing up on fan service in this episode and alternate versions of our characters, but one EMH, one, flesh and blood, but it worked. It worked.
Well, and another reason it works when you're dealing with multiverse, things like that happen. You can't just have different versions of Robert Picardo's hologram doctor. In the multiverse, there is some version of the EMH doctor that's Picard.
Yeah. Yeah. And everything about their relationship I thought was real fun. And seeing them bicker back and forth. I mean, to me, Alexander Siddig sounded a little bit different than his old self. It could have just been me. But Garrick, is Andrew Robinson, the actor who played Garrick, he sounded exactly the same. So yeah, I just, bringing these characters in for a bit of fun and impactful as well. I mean, each of these characters played a pivotal role in this story to get the story to the conclusion that we actually got to in this episode.
But there's somebody that you haven't mentioned yet. I'm curious if you're waiting and holding off this singular character to a later time.
Well, you do tell. We got Alt Mariner. You talking about Alt Mariner?
No, I was actually meaning the Legion of Chems.
I know. Oh man. So I kind of said this as well, that he might end up being the bad guy, which he kind of was in this episode. I think Garrett Wang was amazing, playing all these versions of Chems, and I think the jokes were fun and well placed, and the whole promotion thing, the whole "did you get home" thing. They crapped on the character a lot too, but which I thought it was all in good fun. So yeah, I really thought they brought him in for a good reason, and they got to have a bunch of fun with him, man. I think that's the main point.
Agreed.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on Garrett Wang coming back as Kim?
Anytime I'm seeing an actor playing more than one character at the same time, that's one of my things that I really love watching on television. And even though this was voice work, it was still the same actor playing multiple versions. And I thought that they did a great job of distinguishing evil Harry Kim from the rest of the other versions, because of the cutting of the eyes and the, looking like I'm being diabolical before he did anything that he really was diabolical.
Yeah. And even for what he did at the end to, trying to go off and I don't know if he was trying to save the rest of his versions of Kim, but he was ready for them to come up in the world, because Kim has been crapped on forever. And he makes that move at the very end of the episode. But I really feel like that wasn't even that much out of place, because Kim has really not been celebrated as a character as much as I thought he should have been over all these years. He never got a promotion in Voyager. So I can see his reasoning for being as he was in this episode.
So do you think that was a lot of fan service? Was it an inside joke / stab at the franchise? Was it both? What do you think?
I don't think it was a stab at the franchise. I think it was just fan service.
Gotcha.
Pure and simple. I would have loved that they could have brought him into Prodigy as well. I thought that would have been amazing. Both him and Robert Duncan McNeil would have been amazing in Prodigy.
But well, help me refresh my memory because I think someone did, if not more than someone. But did anyone get promotions while they were out in the Delta Quadrant?
Tom certainly did.
Okay.
Tom did. Balana got early on, but she became the chief engineering. Chakotay became first officer. So as he integrated the crews a bit, so a lot of it was that. But seeing that all the things he did in Voyager, you would have thought that he would have got a little bit more shine. So, but also, Tom and Tuvok, thank you, Win Grace. But also, I think if you're reaching for the stars with cameos, they got Alfre Woodard to come back as Lily Sloan.
Yes.
How crazy is that?
How did I forget that? Because that was my favorite. I love that actor.
Unexpected. And when did First Contact come out? In 96 or something?
Something like that. It was in the 90s.
She sounds the exact same.
Yes.
She was amazing, man. And she had a lot of Trekkie babble in this episode too, and she just like reeled it off. Her as well as Jolene Blaylock didn't, I feel like their performances, in addition to I think Andrew Robinson performances were just amazing in the episode. Mm-hmm. So, they were very much playing to nostalgia in this episode, and we had some good heartfelt scenes. I feel like we had the great scene with Curzon and T'Pol. We had the great scene when the Alt Mariner was going to make a sacrifice for the ship, and she got the gravity pulled her to the ground, and Bashir just pops up and the EMH and saves her. A lot of great heartfelt moments in this episode, and I have to admit, early on in the season, I thought they were kind of wasting the whole multiverse or quantum universe Fissure thing. I thought it wasn't going to really play out all that well, but I think they kind of made up for it in this episode. Just an excellent episode all around.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this, and I am so well. If I wasn't distracted by the dogs outside, I would have remembered Alfre Woodard being in this episode, because I've liked her in anything that I've ever seen her in. Really loved her, and I think it was in season 2, I think, of Luke Cage, mm-hmm. and just really, really enjoy her. So awesome having her in.
She was graced in Scrooged. I don't even remember Scrooged. Do you?
I've never seen it, but I remember
Bill Murray?
it. Yeah.
Might be a good time to go watch that. So we had the cool Quapians in this episode, if I'm saying that correctly. I thought that was just a big Moopsie. Did you get that feeling? Like, they bring Moopsie back? It just looked like Moopsie to me. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting race of aliens as well. So, man, any other tidbits about this episode?
So let me ask you this. Did I understand it correctly when I'm watching it that this ship was actually causing what was happening? Yeah. Or did I misunderstand that?
No. You're exactly right. This ship, so it was actually quite beautiful as Lily Sloan explained it in the episode. So the whole mantra from Star Trek has been to seek out new life and new civilizations, boldly go to, in doing so, go out further and further to seek out new life. But their whole, I guess, directive was to seek out different versions of the human civilization.
Yes.
So that's what they were doing. And their prime directive, I like the twist that they had in the episode. Their prime directive was that they wouldn't reveal themselves to any other group of or species that didn't have multiversal or quantum technology themselves. So I really like the little twist they put in there where that's the reason where they weren't talking to them. And again, just to have Lily Sloan back leading a ship, leading the USS Beagle of all things, I thought was real fun. I was trying to look, was that ship a reference or anything else? I couldn't find it, but
I'm not sure. I don't think so.
Yeah. I was thinking of the Europa mission from Picard season 2 a little bit, but I went and looked at the ships. They're not the same. It's a different name of the ship. So, but also just to tie her back into Zephyr Cochrane. Of course, she is tied in from First Contact, but saying that he helped her, create this ship and work on this ship to be able to travel between universes. I thought was really cool.
But I still like the whole concept, just in general, of learning more about yourself from other versions. I just think that's cool.
Yeah, learn more about the human race. I thought, a great ideas in this episode. And we end things off by William knowing that, kind of a self-sacrifice, he's he's redirecting this energy from this blast that Harry Kim caused back to the Prime universe, which I'm like, what, dude, are you crazy? But he's so confident in his Boimler, which I don't know why he would be, but he's so confident in his Boimler that he's willing to possibly sacrifice the whole Prime universe to have his crew save all the universes. Yeah.
So is this putting up them in an impossible situation where their antics have to be put off to the side and then they grow up, quote unquote, in this last episode? Not saying that they haven't grown. That's not what I'm meaning. But it sounds like they're creating this impossible lose-lose situation to where none of the stuff that they've been doing for 5 seasons, they're going to have to do something different. And that different is become different.
Wow.
Become Star Trek.
Well, that brings up an excellent question. How does it end?
Does it end?
Or does it end? Does his crew grow in the last episode? Which I think this season, the past 2 seasons actually, they've grown a tremendous amount. But I think you might be right by giving them such a gargantuan task that it may be enough to push them a little bit further into greatness.
What I would love to see in the finale, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you know what I would love to see?
What's that?
And I doubt we'll have time to do this, but since we're dealing with the multiverse, even if it's for 10 seconds, 5 seconds even, I would love to see them come face to face with a version from another universe that's them at the start of Lower Decks, so that you can see them as they were at the beginning and the way they are now, just to get a visual of how far these characters have come in 5 seasons.
Yeah. I think it's going to be
and they can do it visually. It doesn't have to be this long exposition of, look at how much we've changed. It could just be seeing themselves doing dumb crap to each other. And there was like, I can't believe that was ever us or something.
Yeah. It's almost like with this season, and especially like ending on such a high note with these 2 episodes, it's like I'm kind of sad to see them go, because it seems like it would be a more affordable show to produce. Yeah, all these actors need to do is get in a booth and record their lines. So I would love for them to have spent it off into something else, even if they were just tired of doing the Lower Deck thing. It seemed like these characters are so interesting. I would take a live action show. I would take, I think there's a myriad of ways you can go with it to possibly go and do something different. So yeah. I hope they do the retrospective thing in the last episode, which I'm sure they will. I'm anxious to see how it ends.
Do you know the title of the last episode? I know what it is, but
let us know.
The next generation.
Yeah, the next generation. Yeah. Yep. So, real quick, Win Grace tells us that ship was from original design for the movies. I think, was it the Kelvin movies, the Abrams movies, or the original motion picture? But I'm seeing a picture of it here right now. It is viewable in the Abrams movies as a model on a desk. I don't quite remember this, but yeah, it's the XCV model 330. And then we have comments in the chat about the name Beagle. Maybe it's a reference to Darwin's ship. The best of Trek Versa Trek saying, I thought about Darwin before Archer and Porthos even. Yeah, I definitely thought about Porthos when I heard it myself. So yeah, well, with that, let's go ahead and get ratings for the episode, man. I think mine is pretty obvious. I think this is 5 Lily Sloans out of 5 is what I give it. I think it's an amazing episode. Kind of interesting because I don't know if the finale I don't know if it can live up to what we saw in this penultimate episode, because it really pulled out all the stops. But hopefully they can up the ante a little bit and give us something worth, send us out in a blaze of glory.
Okay, so considering me trying to be clever, I'm going to give it 4 Ensign Kims and 1 Lieutenant Kim out of 5. Totaling 5.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, man. Well, I guess we wait with bated breath for the next episode. Any shout outs or anything you want to give before we kind of wrap up here, sir?
I will just say for everyone listening, I'm not sure. Well, I'm not sure exactly when our recording is going to be, but it is the Christmas season, and Doctor Who will have a Christmas-themed episode on Christmas Day, Joy to the Worlds. Can't wait to see it. And, of course, you, and our friend Lee Shackelford will be reviewing that soon after it airs. So there you go. Joys to the world, Christmas tidings, and that's all for me. What about you?
And of course, you can find that on Discussing Network on YouTube or Discussing Who on any of the podcasting platforms. Me, nothing much, man. Just ready to see this finale. Very much enjoying Skeleton Crew as well. I know it's not for everybody, but I'm enjoying the vibes of Star Wars Skeleton Crew. I think it's a really good show. And real quick from the chat, we have 5 out of 5 from Best of Trek, Worst of Trek. We have 4 from Tasha Pierce, Unwrapped. 4.85 from Tasha, excuse me. And we have 4.75 unobserved muons out of 5 from Windgrace. Yeah, can't wait for next week. Thank you guys for joining. It's been a lot of fun. And yeah, we'll see you guys later. Bye.
You've been listening to the Discussing Network. Find out more at discussingnetwork.com.
Can I say that like shut up Wesley? I can just go shut up Clarence?